My videos are very much informed by conversations that I've been having with my clients. So thank you very much, everybody who opens to sharing what they're working with, what the difficulties are, because particularly at the moment, it seems to be that people are working with how to make decisions, because they get caught in a loop and a trap of, shall I do this, shall I do that, but this, but that, but this, but that. And it's exhausting when the brain goes back and forth. So as with all things, I've been encouraging them to drop into the silence within them, the silent space of pure potential, of creativity, of stillness. And it's within all of us. And from that place, it's far easier to allow the answers to arise rather than to be trying to chase them around with our mind. And then we can use the mind, because the mind then can be used in a very powerful and positive way to action the decision. So to get into that space, as always, come into the body, into the breath, because when we're in the body can't be anywhere else but here. And when we breathe in deeply into our center, right down into the sacral chakra, into the hara, into the seat of our power, we breathe right into our tummy. We take the energy away from the head, and the head, it can be all discombobulated and unsure and get more and more tangled. And also the heart, although our heart is a brain of itself, also it's had lots of experiences that may have hurt it, may have been distressing for it. So the heart energy also isn't always to be trusted, because it's kind of coming from a place of a lot of memory. Whereas we drop into the center point, into our hara, into our power, we come into our ease. So we breathe into that place deeply, and then we breathe out. You breathe out the tension. It's often good to do 3 of these, breathing deeply in. And then 1 more. And then there's that space at the bottom of the breath. Complete silence, expansiveness, pure potential. And this space is the place where we can create from, and where we can make decisions from. And if we're practicing all the time to find that space of silence, then we can make decisions from the silence within us. And there will still be likely layers of conditioning. So we might have something arise from that place that bothers us, because we feel a decision needs to be made that may not be in keeping with our current lifestyle, with our belief systems, our conditioning. And so that often is why people stay in loops, because it's ironically often easier to stay in the loops of distress and the mind's games than it is to drop into the silence. And in the silence, start to listen to the all-pervading truth of who we are, to what your soul yearns for. But it can be very helpful for decision making to at least start to practice that, because when you're in that space of ease, in the space of the center point, in your power center, there is a greater strength, there is a greater clarity. As I often say in my videos, practice the breath, because the breath coming back into your center brings that stillness, brings some ease, and brings a relaxation in the body. When the body relaxes, the mind relaxes. Mind and body are so linked. The body-mind loop goes round and round and round. You relax the body, you relax the mind, you're going to find it far, far easier to make a decision. And even if the decision that arises feels to be one that's difficult, at least you've got something come up, and then you can decide. We always have a choice. So if you've got a decision come up that feels counter, as I said, counter to conditioning, counter to the way your life is going, counter to what other people might want you to do, then at least there's something for you to be aware of, something for you to work with. And it might be uncomfortable, and you might not be able to make the decision that is counter to all those things. It might be too challenging, it might be too much of a big step, but there is the choice. We always have a choice. So therefore, at least you'll be making the choice consciously to do a decision that maybe, or make a decision that maybe suits other people, that maybe suits the way you identify yourself, maybe suits what other people think about you, maybe seems to be the kind of decision you've always made in your life. Even if you go ahead and make that decision because it feels at that time too big to make the decision that's counter, at least there is awareness, and at least there's an ease, and you have made the choice, and you're not just running on a loop that you can't get off. You have made the choice, and that makes all the difference, to recognize your choice, recognize that this is a process. And as I work with people, and I've worked with people for years and years and years, nearly 50 years now, from when I was first working with people in health and fitness when I was 18, that moved over the next 10 years into working in people's lives in a deeper way. I know things are a process, and that even when people go deep into their soul energy and realize that the course they need to take or want to take is counter to how they're living their life, sometimes they can't do it because it's too much of an upheaval, too much against what they've created, and therefore they consciously make a choice to stay with what it is. And with consciousness and coming from that silence, there's a greater ease, there's a greater autonomy, there's a greater sense of self. And the more you're getting into that space in the breath and into the silence within you, the more you're in your essence, things will start to evolve in a different way. And all our creativity then can flow from that place, all of your your decisions, your creativity. Because if you are throughout the day, as I said in my last video when we were talking about overwhelm, if you're using the breath to help with overwhelm, you get used to using the breath through your life as a norm to come back to your center. You use it to clear tension, you use it to clear overwhelm, you use it to find your center. And then, of course, you use it for decision making. But then at the deepest level, you also recognize that it's the pure potential of anything is you can and want can be created from there. And therefore, you can start to create from a place of consciousness, a place of silence, and make decisions from that place. But there isn't a rush. I think that our society is always, well, not always, but seemingly often in a rush. And there isn't a rush. Things of the spirit happen in their own time, and we can only resolve when we're ready to resolve. Therefore, it's worth investigating gently these things, because there isn't a set route for anyone. There isn't a set path for any of us. We're all here experiencing being alive. We're experiencing ourselves in a body. We're spiritual beings on a human journey. And it's an experience, and maybe some of the experiences need to be ones of confusion about decisions. Maybe they need to be about going a route that seems counter to what we really want. You know, there's no set path. I've again seen that with the people I've had the privilege to journey alongside, that they've maybe sometimes had to go around a loop that seemed alien to their well-being, maybe up to 4 times, whether that's going into a relationship that wasn't particularly good for them, or in fact toxic for them, but they've needed to go back in. And it's not for me to have decided it was good or not good. They needed to find out for themselves and do the pattern. And that's the journey of our soul. It's needing to find out for itself ultimately. someone like me can guide people, can give them some insights, can give them some ideas, but I've really seen that ultimately the only person who can know themselves and experience themselves is the person, and the only person who can, well, no, they're not a person, drop into the consciousness. It's an experience. You can have guides and pointers to it, but therefore decision making, there's ultimately, just to finish, there's no wrong or right decision anyway, because it's just an experience here, and you're just finding out who you are. You're experiencing being alive, you're experiencing this journey, and therefore a decision may seem to be the wrong one, but actually there can have been lots of gifts of learning along the way. I've made all sorts of decisions in my life that, looking back from this vantage point, clearly the me now, not clearly, but actually it is clear to me, clearly the me now wouldn't have made many of the decisions, because by making the decisions I learned things, I changed, I evolved, I grew. Lots of pain as well along the way with the decision making, that sometimes even at the point I was making it, I knew that it probably wasn't going to serve me, but it did serve me in the long term, because the experience I've gained and the wealth of growth from it, it's all brought me to here. So there isn't a wrong or right decision. But meanwhile, dropping into the space in the breath, dropping into the silence, helps you to be more aware, helps you to know who you are, moment by moment by moment.